Hello there, Internet, and welcome back to another edition of Washington Football's Unfiltered Show, The Beat. I am your host, Chip Brierre, and the Washington football team is going to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday evening, and for that, we bring in our panel. Olivia Garvey of ABC7 Sports. We have Logan Paulson of 106.7 The Fan, former Washington football team tight end, and Mike Jones of USA Today, who once upon a time covered this team in Ashburn. So it's good to have him back in the fold. So it's been a wild week, and that is where we begin, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are fresh off of an ugly win against the Baltimore Ravens on a Wednesday in the NFL. Still doesn't make sense to me. 19-14. Mike Tomlin went on the record to say it was a junior varsity performance in that win for Pittsburgh. That kind of spells a little bit of concern, but Ron Rivera earlier in the week said he's just focused on getting this win to try and stay in the NFC East division race. Logan, I want to start with you because you've been a part of that grind, especially when there's some inconsistency in going from a short week to a long week. There's going to be 11 days in between that win over Dallas on Thanksgiving, 41-16, and this game on Monday against Pittsburgh. How does Ron Rivera and how do these players adjust to that so they're ready and there's no lull in their game?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I played with a coach one time who told me that it's really coming off a bye, for example, which is another time where you would see this kind of long lull, that you don't want the guys to be around the material too much because it becomes oversaturated. They start seeing ghosts. They start seeing things that aren't necessarily there. They start studying too much, which sounds counterintuitive, but that does happen. So I think the fact that this is unplanned makes it even more difficult because they've been exposed to this material now, and then you can't get away from it and come back like you would on a bye, for example. So I think it's going to present a lot of challenges for Ron, and that's why Ron gets paid the big bucks, is to make these decisions and handle these kind of flux situations, and really, frankly, situations that's totally unprecedented up until this point.
Yeah, Washington has yet to have any serious conditions with COVID implications. This is the first time that they've been challenged with that. Pittsburgh, obviously, with the 3-day delay against the Ravens with their outbreak in Baltimore. But Mike, I want to go to you now because the Pittsburgh Steelers have been really irritated with how it went against the Ravens to get that game in. Now they have to change their scheduling around. Does that hurt their chances on a short turnaround, especially in this weird rhythm when the NFL is such a creature of habit?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be challenging for them because, even though it's pushed back one day, they don't have as much time for their bodies to heal and things like that. Don't have as much time to prep. But if I know the way that Mike Tomlin's going to go about this thing, he's going to be all up in them and really try to motivate them to come out with a better effort. So from that standpoint, it's probably not great for Washington because they're going to want to put this bad taste out of their mouth. But really, they are kind of vulnerable. They've, had more injuries pile up. They're going to be without, their top two pass rushers, and, they've had other areas where guys are going to be banged up. And so it's going to be a challenge for them. And I think each week, as, that win streak continues to extend, the pressure is there psychologically, even if it's subconsciously. So I think they're going to come out, with a good effort, but you just never know if there's going to be a little wobble there.
And the Steelers will be getting James Conner back, who was tested positive for COVID-19 at the beginning of the week. And Olivia, that could spell trouble for the Washington defense, despite Pittsburgh's poor offensive showing and Big Ben really struggling after being so great all year long. That running game really opens things up for him. So do you think that could maybe play a disadvantage for Washington, knowing that, they didn't get the full tape that they might have if James Conner was on the field?
I mean, yeah, James Conner's James Conner. These guys are going to worry about him, but this Washington offense needs to know that they need to protect Smith at all costs. He needs to be like Big Ben in a sense. He needs to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible so this defensive line is not going after him. I think that is a main concern because, the Steelers are leading in everything defensive-wise, or most things. So I think Alex Smith, like I said, is going to need to be a copycat and get rid of that ball quickly so that his line can protect him at all costs.
With that, we go inside this matchup more specifically. Logan, the tight ends have really helped out Alex Smith. Another Logan, in fact, Logan Thomas had a pass, he had a reception, he had a run, he did a little bit of everything. So the Steelers defense leads the NFL in sacks. Washington is right behind them with 5 less. Washington defensively has had a struggle lately of trying to get in their backfield with Montez Sweat and Chase Young, but what do you like about this matchup with Big Ben? He does not move around the pocket as well as some of the other quarterbacks they face this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think the thing that I am most kind of keeping my eye on in this game especially is that they throw the football a lot. You know, you talked about the running back being back. I'm not sure that presents a huge impact right away because that's not exactly what they do. And then Ben historically does not enjoy the play action pass game, right? Which is something that's given the Washington football team fits over the last 3 or 4 weeks, right? Kind of the model that was laid out by the LA Rams, for example. That's not here anymore. They don't do that as much. I think in the last 3 games that I've watched of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I saw 1 true play action pass. I mean, they do a little kind of jerry rig stuff here and there, but nothing like that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, like that formula that was cultivated by the Rams, like I mentioned, to kind of stymie this pass rush. So I don't see that same thing. So to me, I think it's a good opportunity for these rushers to get consistent pass rush looks, to kind of know like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to kind of work on my moves, establish what I want to do, and pressure the quarterback. Obviously, Ben has done a good job of getting the ball out of his hands, but when he doesn't, it doesn't look pretty. He can't move around the same way, and I think that really bodes well for this defensive front.
It certainly helps Big Ben that he has some great receivers to throw the ball to in Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool. Olivia, the Washington DBs have done a solid job of late to keep the ball away from the deep plays. Ronald Darby got burnt last game against the Cowboys, but that was the only big play they really gave up in the passing game. Does this matchup give you concern for those DBs?
I do. And you know what? Going into this, I think the star of this game is going to be the Washington secondary. I think they need to step up against this young and I think underrated receiving core. I think they're a little bit underrated with the Steelers receiving core. And I think that if the Washington secondary can step up and match up against them, I think that's what's going to win this game.
And on the flip side, Mike, you have the receivers in Terry McLaurin, who now wants to be called the captain, not Scary Terry. He's made that distinction now. Do you like that matchup against these DBs who are first in turnovers, as Olivia alluded to earlier?
I mean, it's going to be a challenge for them. You're going against a very talented secondary, but that's why I think that the important thing for Washington is to stick to what they do best. They've done a really good job of, using their running backs in a variety of ways and making it hard for defenses to get a read on what they're doing. If they have to get into an attack where there's passing a whole lot, then I think that doesn't play in their favor there. And then that will give these defensive backs more of an opportunity. But if you can get that run game going, that'll set up your play action attack. That'll actually, kind of keep those defensive backs preoccupied because, they're not getting as many balls coming their way. So I just think that balance is the most important weapon that Washington can use.
We saw that all play out in Dallas with Antonio Gibson, who had 3 rushing touchdowns, and that is going to be talked about in our next segment after the break. We press the stakes. Gonna ask our panel to put their betting hat on. You're watching The Beat. Keep it locked right here.
We all know things are different. Keeping you safe is not. At Innova, we ensure the safety of everyone who comes to us with safe locations, safe supplies, safe cleaning, and safe practices. You're safe at Innova. Get the facts at innova.org/safety.
It's 2020. Let's make a splash. Play the DC Lottery's Roaring Cash.
Free healthcare. Hundreds to more than $1,000 per month in disability compensation and tens of thousands for college tuition. These are just some of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs benefits that may be available to veterans. VA is focused on customer service like never before. Choose VA and see why veterans' trust in VA reached an all-time high. Claim the benefits you've earned at choose.va.gov.
DC has a home for the greatest hits of all time.
That would be Michael Jackson for me.
DC's greatest hits.
Madonna.
Billy Idol. Live here.
Cyndi Lauper. Bon Jovi.
94.7.
Blondie. The Eagles.
The Drive.
Welcome back to The Beat. I am your host, Chip Brierre. We have Olivia Garvey, Logan Paulson, and Mike Jones. And now it's time to head out to Vegas, digitally, of course. Can't travel. So pressing the stakes on some of the storylines we are seeing develop going into this final stretch of the season. Doubling down on if they will, in fact, play out and become true. We begin with Mike Jones. Antonio Gibson will win Rookie of the Year. He is second behind Dalvin Cook with 11 rushing touchdowns as a rookie.
Can't take that bet. Yeah, he's good, but I just think that Justin Herbert is probably going to be the guy now. I think if Joe Burrow had played all year long, maybe him, but Justin Herbert has been really impressive, really exceeding expectations, not to take away from what Gibson has done, but the numbers that Herbert is putting up and the poise that he's showing there, I think that he gets the edge. He would be where my money would be.
After his first 24 career NFL games, Terry McLaurin has more receiving yards than Jerry Rice. That is something we have brought up often because it is a staggering stat. So Olivia, Terry McLaurin will be a first-team All-Pro wide receiver. Are you going to press that stake?
I think he deserves it, but there are a lot of good receivers in the NFL. There are a lot of good receivers. I would love to see it because he has carried this team through a lot of games this season. It would be nice to see. Can I to be determined? I don't know. I don't.
We'll allow it.
This is why I don't bet. This is why I do not bet.
Maybe we'll get a better luck with Logan on our next Press the Stake, and that would be Alex Smith will be Washington's quarterback in 2021. Are you going to press that?
So I probably wouldn't. I think there's a really good chance he'll be on the team. I think if they do draft a guy, I think he would be a perfect mentor for them. I think he would fit with what they want to do moving forward. He's a true professional. He's had a great history in that mentorship, that teaching role. I think it would be awesome for him and awesome for the organization if he stuck around. Obviously, that the numbers and the price tag have to work out appropriately. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be the starting quarterback. I think if he had kind of carried some of that momentum from the Detroit Lions game throughout the rest of the year, and he was throwing up big numbers every week and very productive and protecting the football, but he hasn't done that to that level, and that was kind of unfair to assume that he would do that. So I think he might be here. I think there's a good chance of that, but I don't think he'll be the starting quarterback.
We go to the opponents in Mondays. I got to remind myself. Monday's game. I'm so used to saying Sundays. The Pittsburgh Steelers will lead the NFL in sacks, beating the Washington football team at the end of the year. Mike, you going to press that?
I'll take that bet. Although it's going to be difficult for them because they lost Bud Dupree, but they still just are a really deep team. They've invested a lot in their linebackers. That's Mike Tomlin's favorite position on the field. He talks about how important they are. They can get after the quarterback. I do think they probably want to lead the league in sacks.
And we wrap up the segment with Logan and a former teammate of yours, Ryan Kerrigan, who despite getting limited snaps is still a force to be reckoned with coming off the edge. He needs 4.5 sacks to get to the century mark before the end of the season. Are you willing to press that he's going to get there?
You know what? At the beginning of the year, I probably wouldn't have pressed that, but he's really stepped into this new kind of situational pass rushing role in a really fantastic way, in a way that a lot of guys have a tough time transitioning to. So I'm going to say yeah, because Ryan's my guy, and I want him to get 10 sacks. Because whether or not that happens or not, I'm pulling for Ryan. He's a great dude, and it'd be awesome to see that happen for him.
We all want to see it happen. Ryan Kerrigan, a true pioneer for the franchise, and that is Press the Stakes. That was a great start to our new segment, guys, and now we move on to predictions for this game. Logan, you ended the last segment. Let's start you here. Who wins the game, and do you have a score?
What's interesting is I think this game's going to be a little bit more competitive than people think. I think the matchup really fits really nicely with the Washington football team's defense. I think offensively, like Olivia mentioned earlier, that's where the issue is going to be, right? Can they protect Alex Smith? Can they kind of stymie the aggressiveness of that front? And then on the back end, they make a lot of hay because that front is so aggressive. So that's kind of what I'm keeping my eye on, definitely moving forward in this matchup. However, I think Pittsburgh's still going to have enough juice to win the game. I think they're just a better roster. Olivia also mentioned that receiving core. I think that's a great point. They got a lot of weapons offensively and defensively, and I don't think the Washington football team is there yet. I think they're going to lose. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I'm going to say 31-21, just to throw some random numbers.
That's a high-scoring game. I think you're getting close to the point total there. I haven't checked it last check. Olivia, since you were mentioned a lot in Logan's answer, let's go to you, Nick.
I am a little bit scared of Tomlin after his interview yesterday, and if I were a player for him, I mean, I would be scared too, what he said to you today over virtual Zooms, I'm sure. So I think I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one. And I think that when you have that momentum out of one of those games like they did yesterday, I think that it will be brought into at a higher level on Monday against Washington. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one. I don't think rest and time is good for Washington.
Yeah, they lost to the Giants coming off a bye week at home, so there is evidence to that. Mike, you round us out with predictions.
I'm going to complete the sweep, unfortunately. But I agree with Logan. I think this game will be competitive. When you look at Pittsburgh, outside of, I think it was Cleveland, they haven't had a whole lot of blowout victories. They hang on. They are resilient. Yeah. So then they find a way to win. They hold off a charge and things like that. So they don't do it really pretty, but they get it done. And so that's why I think that Washington's going to make some plays. They're going to do some things that are exciting and make you feel good. But in the end, I think that just the resiliency of that team, and like Logan said, the roster's a little bit better, just a little bit further ahead of schedule than what Washington is right here. And so I say that Pittsburgh wins, but I'll say 27-24.
That's a solid score. That is a solid score. And Mike Tomlin's social media makes fun of him for his axiom, the standard is the standard, but that's what you described, Mike. They just gut out wins no matter what it looks like or how ugly it looks. With the predictions now out of the way, we go to matchups or people of interest in this game. Could be a coach, could be an executive, can be a player. You're keeping your eye on in this matchup. Mike, let's start with you.
Well, we talked a lot about Mike Tomlin, and I just think that he is that tone setter. So I'm obviously going to be watching to see what he does this week to get his guys to bounce back, because like I said, the pressure mounts when you're undefeated, but then obviously I think that you have another veteran coach in Ron Rivera. I think that it's a chess match right here. What did Ron do this week? His guys had a lot of time. How did he keep them engaged? What's the game plan that they come up with to get after a veteran quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger? So I think that this is going to be a really good classic longtime coach chess match. It might not be pretty, it might be old school, but I think that this is where this game's going to be won with the leadership and the tones that both of these guys set.
How about you, Logan?
You know what? I like that. I like that a lot, because I do think that there's so much adversity for the Steelers right now that you got to look to the head coach. But I'm a run blocking tight end. I love watching those guys in the trenches up front, and I think there's a big matchup there this week that's going to be really exciting to watch. We talked about the pass rush of the Washington football team against the offensive line of the Steelers, and vice versa. How are they going to protect Alex Smith? So to me, like every week, that's something I watch. I love that element of the game. I love how those guys play. I love the physicality in the trenches there. So that's what I like to watch every week, but especially this week because of those matchups and the talent at those positions for both teams.
Yeah, don't sleep on Logan Thomas or Eric Ebron. They could get it done in the NFL. Olivia, who are you keeping an eye on?
Mike stole my answer again. We're a great group here. I love Tomlin and Rivera. I think they're very similar in their mindset. Those are two tough coaches to play for, I'm sure, and they have that similarity on the field. But to go against Mike on this one, maybe the quarterback matchup. Roethlisberger and Smith, both veterans, both well respected in the league, have played a long time. Maybe that matchup, maybe that quarterback matchup.
Yeah, they've had a couple of great duels when he was playing for Kansas City, so I like that a lot. And that is it for this week's episode of The Beat. I want to thank our panel for joining us. Olivia Garvey of ABC 7 Sports. You can catch her every weeknight this week and through the rest of the year and forever until as long as they keep her along. And then Logan Paulson, 106.7 The Fan. Watch him on the pre and post game show for the Washington football team, and Mike Jones of USA Today. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the game on Monday. We'll see you next time.
At Honda, we take the holidays seriously. With serious style and serious capability. So while others may be decking the halls, you could be dashing through the snow with the best value of the season. Now's the best time to get into a new Honda. KBB.com's best value brand for 2020. Visit Happy Honda Days at your local Honda dealer or shop online to get a great offer on the HR-V.
FanDuel's simple, intuitive app makes it easy to get closer to the game. But to get Dan even closer, we've arranged for him to experience a genuine James Harrison tackle.
Wait, what? Tackle? Can we not do the tackle?
If he doesn't tackle you, he doesn't get paid.
Doesn't get paid? Oh,
FanDuel. Join today and play free all season long.
It's 2020. Let's make a splash. Play the DC Lottery's Roaring Cash.
At Inova, COVID-19 testing of all patients having a procedure or surgery, continuous training of our team members, and thorough cleaning of our facilities are just some of the many ways we work to keep you safe. You're safe at Inova.
DC has a home for the greatest hits of all time.
That would be Michael Jackson for me.
DC's greatest hits.
Madonna.
Billy Idol. Live here.
Cyndi Lauper. Bon Jovi.
94.7.
Blondie.
The Eagles.
The Drive.
It's all-wheel drive season, and your local Honda dealers are bringing the best deals of the year. It's clearance pricing during the Happy Honda Days sales event. Dash through the snow to a rugged and adventurous Honda. Check out the entire all-wheel drive truck and SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Ridgeline, Pilot, and Passport, with features like Honda Sensing, Magic Folding Seats, and 3 different driving modes. Clearance pricing is here, but it won't last long. Don't miss clearance pricing at the Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.